voice. Did the worker's voice? You missed the worker's voice, or you missed that voice last week? Well, we are back with you this evening here on Q95. The worker's voice is back, and we were just off for 1 week, and the whole world is missing us, and so that's good. It's all good. That worker's voice is back on track right here in Q95. I'm your host Hector Sparks John, and we're here with you tonight. Today is the 18th of May 2023, and tonight we just want to reach out as we always do, touch those of you out there who not doing too well. We just want to say good evening to you and your families. We just want to say good evening to those of you who have lost loved ones along the way. I just want to reach out and touch the family of Zidora Pet John Charles. He passed away. She should be in Salisbury. She should be buried on the 20th, I'm hearing. So that is a tentative date. I just want to extend sympathies to the family. So her daughter is on island, and maybe granddaughter does one, and all the other friends and families in Salisbury. Just want to extend sympathies to them once again. The father of Knowlton Francis, our very good friend in Riviera Cyric. Tinam, good evening to you and the family and the passing of your dad. I just want to extend sympathies to you and the family and the passing of your dad. And tomorrow will be the burial of Shirley Shillingford, the mom of Mr. Glenroy Soso Coffee, sister of our good friend Norman Shillingford, and all the others. I just want to extend sympathies to them. And tomorrow will be the burial in downtown Roseau. Tomorrow will be the 19th of May 2023. And also, I would like to take the opportunity to extend birthday greetings to Soldier. I would say he's batting 91 years old tomorrow. He'll be 91 tomorrow. John Leatham of Salisbury, better known as Seteli, up in Tapive. Today I went by him and we knock bottles, had a drink. To reach 91 in this day and age, that means you're batting well. I just want to reach out and wish him all the very best on his birthday tomorrow. Yes, just want to welcome each and every one of you once again. Those of you, as I said, who have lost loved ones, not doing too well, on behalf of the leadership of our party, our leader, Dr. Thompson Fountain, our deputy leader, Mr. Clement Masler, our president, Mr. Lennox Linton, our vice president, Mrs. Francisca Joseph, and every member of the leadership of our party. I just want to extend to wish you all the very best for the week. That you're going through some tough times financially, emotionally. Some of us are going through some serious challenges, and that's why United Workers Party continue to be there with you, discuss with you, interact with you, and speak to the issues. Good evening, Mr. Ron Green and Mrs. Green in Lapland. Good evening to you. Hope you're doing very well. Just let me say good evening in Salisbury. I just want to big up the Pineapple Man, Mr. Stephen Jonjos and Mrs. Jonjos. Saw you all by the road selling a pineapple, and I sure you all will be in Roseau. So look out for the red van with the blue tent. Just look out for Stephen and just tell him you come for your pineapple. You don't have to ask him if it's sweet. Everything comes from Salisbury is sweet. There are some people who will try to argue that with me. We are not arguing that tonight. Everything that comes from Salisbury is sweet. So just check out Stephen John Jones, the pineapple man, for all your pineapple to make your juices. Give your children for healthy snack for school. Just check out the pineapple man. So once again, we will invite you back to Workers' Voice, and tonight we're gonna have a fiery team in studio with us tonight, and we welcome from the Roseau North constituency. Let me welcome Mr. Danny Lugay.
Good evening, Honorable John, and good evening wherever you're listening from. I want to begin by extending our apologies to our many listeners who were disappointed that we didn't have a program last week, but we're happy that we're on tonight, and tonight will be a very powerful night. So wherever you're listening from, whether it's in the diaspora, we have lots of folks listening. Jeffrey Brisbane, good evening. I got a call from Jeffrey earlier on. There's a lot of patriotic Dominicans who would like to see Dominica do better. To my brother Peter Lugay, all my brothers, my sister Joy, Rosanoff, good evening. It's good to be in studio with a very powerful team. And before I end my greetings, I'd like to extend condolences to the family of Shirley Alex Alexandrine Shillingford, whose funeral will be tomorrow, viewing 2:30 at the St. Gerald's Chapel. I'm sure that there will be a good representative team from the United Workers' Party to give support to Soso Forozo and the rest of his family. We really like to tell you that in your difficult times, in your challenging times, Soso, God will heal your heart and he will heal your home. So hang in there.
All right, thank you from the Lapland constituency. I just say good evening to Ron Green. I just want to say and his wife and to all the others up there, my family up there in Laron, Mapisi, Sakafet. Good evening to you. Just want to welcome to the studios of Q95 from the Lapland constituency and the Vice President of our party, Mrs. Francisco Joseph.
Thank you very much, Mr. John. Thank you for having me here this evening. I am the lady among the gentlemen.
Yes, indeed.
Everybody, I'm encompassed around by gentlemen. So it's nice to be here. I am comforted. I think I am safe right here.
No thinking about that. You are
Yes.
safe.
A blessed good night to the people of Lapland, Boetica Dailies. It's a beautiful day. It's thank God to be in the land of the living. We are alive and well. There are so many who cannot say that they have seen the day, and we are so thankful. In spite of the circumstances, in spite of what is happening, we want to give God thanks for his goodness and his grace, and say thank you to all of you who have continued to support the party over the years in spite of everything. Through thick and thin, you've been there. And you use your resources and everything else to ensure that the party moves on from strength to strength. I want to say good night to the ladies of the United Workers' Party, Women of Workers. A pleasant good evening to you. Rosanna up there in England, she must be asleep by now. I'm saying, I have teacher Ernie, Annette, Monel, and all the women of workers. Blue, and Debbie's birthday was yesterday. These are Mayborns, the queens, born in this month. I was born in this month as well, so
Is
you
that
know.
so?
Yes.
My sister told me we never call the women of workers. So Elika John, good evening. Rosa John Charles.
You know,
Yes.
we are supposed
So,
to come in for your birthday party. Yeah,
A blessed good evening to all the ladies who have continued to stand in the gap. We see our condolences to a few people in the southeast. In Lapland, we have Xavier Telly-McAllen, who passed
Wow.
just a few days ago. And I want to say our condolences to Katharina and the other members of the family who mourn his passing. And when you think of the cross in Lapland, you think of Telly-Mac, and you know.
He was before you move. I just want to say something about Telemac. He was one of the gentlemen. They told me about men that used to walk with the bag under the arm. When you see them walking with the bag under the arm, they mean business. And Mr. Telemac is always on the pot, and his bag is always under his arm. And when you meet him in Roseau, and he was a very nice, respectful gentleman. And he have his son, a tall son. He's in England. That was my good friend as well. I just want to extend sympathies to the entire Allen family in Lapland.
Yeah, and to Edward Joseph, otherwise known as Tollies from Dailies, his wife, his children, his siblings. We want to offer condolences. And a former police officer, Leonard Samuel, also known as Sambo, he died just a few days ago. It was about 2 days ago. Yeah. Sincerest condolences to the family, Priscilla Darrow, all the children. Sincerest condolences. I know at this time it is difficult, to mourn the loss of a loved one, but we are with you in spirit. We pray that God will grant you the comfort that you need in those times. So I hope tonight we're going to have a very interactive discussion. We hope to hear from you and what you think about every other things that we're going to have here tonight.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Joseph. And also in studios with us from the Maribad constituency, the president of our party, Mr. Lennox Linton.
Good evening, Hector John. Good evening, Danny Lugate. Good evening, Francisco Joseph. Good evening to the other members of the National Executive of the United Workers' Party, the political leader, and the other holders of executive positions, and all of the supporters and friends of the party around Dominica. All of the people of Dominica here at home, across the miles, welcome. It's always a joy. It's always an honor as we congratulate those who have been celebrating the entrance of new life into this world, and we condole with those who have lost loved ones. We seem to be doing that more these days than previously. I just find many people are dying these days. I'm told that happens. That perception comes when you yourself are getting old. So, I'm really happy to be here. Looking forward to sharing with you as usual. And top of the agenda of my mind tonight is the 31st of May, 2023.
Okay.
On the 31st of May, 2023, we will be assembling in Roseau. We'll be inviting Dominica to assemble in Roseau. And I want to talk a little bit about that tonight. It's very important.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Linton. Tomorrow, don't forget, we'll be at in front of the Prevo Cinema. Continue the sales of the tickets for raffle. Remember, the draw is on July 3rd, 2023. Not beyond that, not before that. July 3rd. Thunder, rain, lightning. You'll have to go inside. If it's raining, we'll have to go inside Prevo Cinema, but we'll be having the raffle out there for the screen. Nissan Demio Mazda Demio car, a flat screen TV, or rice cooker, only $5. We just want you to give support to that. And also, do not forget, you heard Mr. Linton, we'll go into that discussion, but I want to continue the promotions. You're hearing it all over the place, on the ground, wherever you're passing. The date, May 31st, 2023, Roseau, the Arch, Riverbank. That's where will be United Workers' Party electoral reform rally. Make it a date, spread the word, call your neighbors, call your friends, buses, donkeys, dumpers, excavators, everything. We are going to Roseau on that. Everything you have, your boat, if it's a bicycle you have and you can make it, we are going to Roseau on that day from 3 p.m. on the riverbank, the arch. The arch was built by United Workers' Party, right? Yes. It was built by the United Workers' Party when they were doing the bridge in that area. So the arch will be right there on the riverbank on the 31st of May. 1st of May, you have Pentecost Monday on the 29th. And so after Pentecost Monday, you have a nice rest day on the Tuesday. And the Wednesday, you have no excuse. No, we're not taking any excuses. Everybody should be, buses will be provided, but get your horses, get your dumper, get your excavators, get everything that you have, your people. And you can come in the river, on the river. You want to take the people after Jessica, let's go up the Roseau River and join us there.
You can do bamboo
all right. All this. We want you to be in Roseau. Yes. Those of you who have been reaching out from overseas as well, we want to thank you for that. Continue to do so. Those of us you making your contribution locally to give support to the event, we want to thank you for that. Those of you from other groups and in Dominica, also organizations in Dominica who giving support to that, we welcome it as well. We welcome everybody. This time we are going to connect seriously. The connection has to be there for us to make things happen, and we are very ready. So we heard the leader.
Before you go, let me just call on two persons there, one in the States, one in England, if I want to call their names tonight. Daniel Lawrence, that's the brother of Sandra Lawrence up in Lapland.
Okay.
Strong supporter, very much already involved in the 31st May 31st rally.
Right.
And to Madonna and Benedict John Baptist in the States as well. Very much involved as well in the rally. Excited about it, and putting their resources together as well. So pleasant good night to you all, and continue listening. I'm sure they're listening tonight.
Yeah. Let me just say it quickly. Daniel Roll in New Jersey, who have supported us as well already. I just want to also reach out our good friend down there in New Jersey, Mr. Peter Thomas. All the best to you as well, you and your wife, and everybody else who giving support. A gentleman just met me in Roseau a while ago by KSC and he gave me $20, and he said that is my contribution for the activity on the 31st. People meeting you, if it's the $5, somebody told me they have a $5 to give us, even though that can help with that to buy a bottle of water. That to show you how people giving support, giving the hard-earned cash for that activity, and that is what is a people's activity. It's been organized by the United Workers Party, but we want everybody on board. With this words, Danny, take the nod.
Yes, okay. Before I get into introducing the topic, let me say it's a pleasure to be in studio with our president and vice president, and also to reach out to people like Oliver Totos Walsh. We wish him full 100% health. We think of people like Roger Bruni in the United States. A few weeks ago, I had the occasion to speak with him when my brother was visiting him. I think of my cousin Vincent Lugue, who is facing a procedure up in the States, and also that musician Fitzroy Williams. He's not doing too well. So
Roger Bruni as well.
Roger also, but Roger is showing great signs of improvement, and we're happy for that. You know, I, as a man of faith, who really believe in the power of prayer and the power of healing. You never give up on anybody, no matter how dire the situation looks. You know, that's what faith is. You just join faith together and believe God for a miracle. So all the names I mentioned, I really wish them a speedy recovery and a miracle. Now, by way of introduction of the topic, it's already May 18th, 2023. The first phase of the Dennis Byron proposed legislation should have already been before Parliament, according to Sir Dennis' original timetable, and that was February 2023. We have not heard of one public education session by our Electoral Commission. So tonight, we will keep the conversation squarely focused on the people's agenda. Now that the Byron draft legislation has already been sidelined by Skerrit, and the April 2023 deadline for passage in Parliament has come and gone. We, the taxpayers who paid to Sir Byron almost $750,000, now call on the people of Dominica to take action and to the streets. It now behoves the Electoral Office, which is the legally constituted body with the mandate to get on with the people's business of electoral reform. This will mean that the Electoral Office must engage in island-wide education of the public on what is in the Sir Dennis Byron's report. The people will not accept any further excuse nor delay. Come the first quarter of 2024, everything must be in place for fresh elections with comprehensive reform, voter ID cards, complete re-registration exclusively on island, campaign finance reform, among others. This evening, we will hear from President of the United Workers Party, Honorable Lennox Linton, and Deputy President, Honorable Francisca Joseph, on the electoral reform proposal and the party's concerns. Stay tuned for a very informative and interactive show this evening.
Jessica, go right
Thank
ahead.
you. I don't know if I can overturn this one now. Yes, Mr. Lugue has given it a little introduction, really what exactly we're going to talk about. And sometimes you sit and you tell us, we hear people say, why Taddy only talk about electoral reform? What's the importance of electoral reform? Why do we really need electoral reform? Why is it important? And I will speak to tonight the whole issue. I'll look at public officers and say how important electoral reform is for public officers. You know, as a nurse, as a doctor, as a lawyer, as a teacher, as anybody who works in the public service, what is the importance for you of electoral reform? Why is it important that you need to vote a government of your choice? Why is it important that you need voter ID card to identify yourself when you go to the polling booth? Why it is that you need campaign financing? You cannot tell me that an incumbent has millions and millions of dollars to spend, yet any opposition party has nothing to spend. And we will speak to those issues, and that is why we are calling on the Dominican public to gather to join us. We're not asking for political parties, we're asking for the people of Dominica, all walks of life. you have tipper truckers, you have bus drivers, you have farmers, everybody in Dominica who is affected. And I'm talking, all these sectors are affected. All these people who have been affected, you have a right to stand, and we're asking you to join the United Workers' Party on that day. Not to fight, but to stand up and be counted, to stand and unify your voices against this tyranny that, yes, we had electoral freedom, 100 days since 2019 after the last election. After the 100 days, you would have that. Now you still got somebody involved. After you rejected all of them, you take them back. And now we have one doing electoral modernization. Still, nothing has come to pass. Being paid, maybe for 6 months now, getting a salary for doing nothing. Where is the electoral modernization process? Where is it right now? The electoral reform, you told us that was coming, that you were waiting for the report. And we got the report. We know that you got the first phase of the report. What has happened since then? Nothing. What is the government afraid of that they do not want to give the country, maybe the only country in the world, electoral reform, since we are a democratic country? Why is it that in this day and age, in 2023, we do not have the reform that we need, that people on the list 40 years ago still living wherever, 20 years ago died, they're still on the list? Right? You go into the polls and somebody has to write your name on a piece of paper, a name, not your name, a name on a piece of paper. And you go to the presiding officer and you present the paper and you say, this is my name. And a presiding officer can say nothing. I know this is not your name, but I can say nothing. You are allowed to vote. And my name is Francisca Joseph in Dailies, but my name is also Francisca Joseph somewhere else. And I vote twice. Or my married surname is Joseph, my niece surname is James, and I vote twice. This and many, many other things that we're talking about when we speak to electoral reform. And if public officers, it affects you as well. You cannot get salary increase. Why? Because you did not have the government that you chose, that you gave right to choose. You are being bought every election cycle, and this is what we are asking. For a whole 4.5 years, you're in misery. Half year, in 6 months, you are given $1,000, $500 to vote. And they quickly put some tariff on a road and tell you that it is okay. Or they quickly grade up a playing field that they have been left and the young people cannot even go to. And this happens every time. And I keep telling the people, for 20-something years, they do the same thing to it. This strategy hasn't changed. The only thing that changes is they push in more money. And now we need the money, because people are suffering, cost of living is high, everything has gone up except salaries. Hospital is in dire straits. So we are calling on people to turn out, not because you want to follow United Workers' Party, because you want good for yourself, you want good for the country, Dominica, and you want to have a better, all of us want to have a better Dominica to live in. All of us want a Dominica where you are free to speak. We have never seen such fear in our people as now. Where people are so scared of telling you that if somebody sees me, I might not get the house that you said that you would give me, or my child was supposed to have gotten a scholarship, but if you see me talking to Francisca Joseph, Daniel Uge, Hector John, Lennox Linton, problems in the camp, you will not get what you're supposed to get. And this is the fear that people are living under. And we are telling the people of Dominica, the time has come for you to stand up. You have to stand up for something or you'll fall for anything. You cannot continue to let fear, and this is what they thrive on, because you are afraid. They know that, so they thrive on that fear that you have and cause so much problem. So we're asking you, I mean, we need massive numbers in the city on the 31st, massive numbers. Turn out, help your neighbor. If you cannot come, but you can give $5, you can give $10, you can give whatever it is that you can give towards the bus fare or for some water, whatever it is. We are asking for people to turn out in large numbers to support the cause for justice and equality, equity, and for freedom for this country.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Joseph. Good evening to my neighbor, Macpherson, down the road. I mean, say hi to his good friend, Sister Sika. Yes, Sister Sika, you started the discussion that Mr. Luge gave the lead. You started it, and also we have in studios with us our president, Mr. Linton. First thing he said, this money got in there, you want to talk about May 31st. Yeah. Mr. Linton, go right ahead. It's all yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Hector. Yeah, I want to talk about May 31st because May 31st is really about us. Us and the country that belongs to us, all of us. The country that we have lost control of as the people of Dominica. And no people anywhere should ever lose control of their country, regardless of who is in government for them, who they have decided to be in government. The people who have the privilege of being in government should never be allowed to wrestle control of the country from the people. And that means that when those who serve in government are not serving the best interests of the people, people are suffering, their lives are not going anywhere, the economy is not doing well, they are not able to make ends meet, they're suffering. They have it hard. And in those circumstances, people hold the government responsible for their resources to account. And what happens periodically, every 5 years in our democracy, is that the people exercise the right to change their government, to decide who their government will be going forward. And in Dominica, we have lost that right. That right to choose a government or to change a government has been taken away from the people of Dominica because the ruling party of the last 23 years has decided it will take advantage of weaknesses in the election legislation. It will create its own loopholes in the legislation, and it will find creative ways of doing all the things that the election laws say should not be done in order to ensure that they win the election or they get the result that they're looking for after the election. And that has been the story of our life in the last 15 years. So let's look at Dominica and let's ask ourselves, why are we in this position? Why is our economy so bad? Why is Antigua able to employ so many of our young people? Why is St. Kitts able to employ so many of our young people? Why are all the other islands around us able to employ our young people while our young people cannot find sustainable, good paying jobs in Dominica? Why is it that the Prime Minister can boast that the economy of Dominica is doing well because it is making so much money that foreigners employed in construction and agriculture in Dominica are sending to their homeland every year over $200 million, while Dominicans are suffering, while Dominicans are starving, while Dominicans are being treated like second-class citizens in their own country. These are all symptoms of a country that has lost, a country where the people have lost control. And the people on the 31st of May, 2023, are being called to stand in the capital city of the country and to say, enough is enough. We are ready to take back control of our country. We are ready to reset this economy. We are ready to rescue our country from the stranglehold of people who have, for 23 years, been looking out for themselves and not paying attention to us. And the evidence of that is all around us. The evidence of that is in the decline in your standard of living that you have witnessed in these last 20 years. The evidence of that is in the struggle that you have been involved in to just survive, not even to thrive, to survive. The struggle to survive, it just keeps getting harder and harder and harder, while at the same time, those who you gave responsibility to lead or those who took the responsibility from you to lead and to make life better in Dominica are only making life better for themselves. They're amassing millions, they're amassing mansions, while you sink deeper and deeper into poverty. And if that is your reality, then the place for you on the 31st of May is the capital city of Roseau in the afternoon, 3 o'clock. Because Dominica has the responsibility to make a statement to the government now that what is going on is not acceptable. You cannot be building an international airport, claim that it cost $1.3 billion, claim that you're going to fund it from the sale of Dominican passports, but have no drawings, no designs for the airport because you have not completed the soil testing on the site where you're hoping to build the airport. 25 years ago in 1998, the United Workers' Party had completed all plans, feasibility study, economic impact assessment, environmental impact assessment, site plans, master plans, financing plans for the international airport, soil studies, geotechnical studies for the international airport by November of 1998. This party came into government and met those plans and left them to gather dust on the shelves. And 23 years later, they are building an airport with no plans. But they know what the airport is going to cost. And they have given a contract to a Chinese company as the main contractor. And they have given a contract without any bids to a developer who has no prior international airport development experience. But he's the developer. And his area of expertise seems to be collecting money from the sale of Dominican citizenship and holding it overseas in collaboration with Roosevelt Skerritt, with no accountability to the people of Dominica for their money. That alone is enough reason for every Dominican of good conscience to come out and say to the government, we have had enough of that sort of recklessness. We have had enough of that sort of disregard for our best interests. We have had enough of you plundering our resources and providing no accountability for it. It does not belong to you. It belongs to all of us. So when we talk about the 31st, we are talking about an event for the people of Dominica, all the people of Dominica. Because in the Dominica I live, a lot of people talk about the labor rights who are getting this and getting that while other people are not getting. The reality is, while that may be true, all Dominicans, bar none, but those that are in the cabal of Roosevelt Skerritt, are suffering and catching hell to do what is necessary to be done to survive. And that's not good enough, because the resources that God has blessed us with allow us to be a much better country than that. And when you think of what some of these people have been able to do for themselves, while the middle class has disappeared, and while people sink deeper and deeper into poverty in Dominica, and while the struggle to survive continues to get harder and get harder, when you see what some of them have been able to do for themselves, you wonder if they had paid attention to the people's interest, how much better off Dominica would be. That is why we will assemble in Roseau on the 31st of May, 2023, because it is time for Dominica to say in a very definitive way, no ifs and buts, no argument. This is not good. What is happening is not good for us. And we are standing together against it. We are standing together from all political colors, from all walks of life, from all areas of the country. We are standing together because this is our interest as Dominica that is being affected. Years ago, I remember, 2015 or thereabout, I made some observations about the state of the tourism industry in Dominica, more specifically the cruise tourism product. And that there was a consultancy firm working for the Florida Caribbean Cruise Association, based in Florida somewhere, that did a study of 35 countries on the state of tourism of the cruise product in those countries. And the question was asked across 35 countries, would you return to the destination for a land-based visit within the next 3 years? And 68% of the people said no for Dominica. 32% said yes. In that survey, on the question of satisfaction with the overall visit, Dominica ranked 34 out of 35. Those are 2015 numbers, 2015 data. At that point, I read the survey and I made some observations, asking the government to consider what we're doing, sit down, do the benchmarking, see what is happening elsewhere, and decide on what we're going to do to fix our product, because there was a problem. Ian Douglas, who was Minister of Tourism at the time, jumped on the radio and said, oh, I didn't know what I was talking about. Everything is fine. They're still saying everything is fine. And that is the problem with this, with government. There is nothing that is wrong, but there is so much that is wrong that everybody else is moving ahead of us. St. Kitts, that was receiving less cruise passenger tourists than us when Roosevelt Skerritt took office in 2004. There were 240,000 visitors. We were above 300,000. We are now below 300,000 and struggling to get up. Pre-COVID, that's before COVID, we were below 300,000, while St. Kitts had climbed progressively up to over 1 million cruise passengers every year. Is it that St. Kitts has more attractions for tourists to see than us? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But some of the facilities that St. Kitts has, we have deprived ourselves of them. For example, a proper welcoming facility for tourists and proper shopping areas where they can get their duty free and so on, and they look forward to that. You know, the product in St. Kitts is earning so much more money that it is able to employ so much more young people in St. Kitts than Dominica. And that has continued year after year after year. I heard a conversation the other day where they were boasting that the numbers this year are looking better than last year. And they, you know, what are you talking about? Do you know what is happening in the other islands? Do you have any idea? Do you have any idea what's happening in the other islands of the Caribbean? The economy of the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union is 21.2 billion. Dominica is only responsible for 8% of that. It is the smallest of the big 6 countries of the OECS and the worst performing economy in the group. But they tell you that we are growing and we have economic growth. You know the story about the economic growth as told by the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank? Our growth in the last 2 years has been below the average growth in the rest of the OECS, you know. But we are boasting that we're better than everybody else. And we continue to fool ourselves with those numbers while people know in their reality things are getting worse. So the modus of these people who are in government is to consistently trick, deceive, fool the people while they make off like bandits with millions and millions from the resources of the state. It is not right, and it is time for the people to stand up against it. So our opportunity to get together and show and demonstrate clearly to the government that what it is doing is not good enough, and it is time for it to move on. It is time for it to clear the way for a national reset that would allow us to get true government of the people, by the people, for the people, that will look after the interests of the people.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Linton. You're listening to the Workers' Voice. We are discussing our event that will be coming up on May 31st. Just want you to join us. Don't forget to join us tomorrow in front of the Prevost Cinema as we continue the sales of the tickets for the car raffle that will take place on July July 1st, sorry, 2023. Those of you overseas who want to make a contribution towards the activity on the 31st and also buy your purchase your tickets, you can contact our secretary at the office, Miss Moulin, at 767-265-0928. 767-265-0928. And as for Miss Moulin, she will assist you in terms of if you want to make a contribution to the party on the 31st, or if you want to just purchase your tickets for the carafe, she'll be more than willing to assist you on both counts. Okay, we're gonna open the lines in a while. The phone lines are beginning coming. Just a second, you heard Mr. Linton, and I'll go to Mr. Luge on some of the areas raised in terms of why we should gather on the 31st and why we have to gather. And something that you mentioned earlier on in terms of your opening comments, public officers. What can we tell our public officers to get them out there to begin to be connected and be part of the process?
Yes, Hector. I worked as a public officer all my life. That's why I worked. What I see happening nowadays, public officers leave the service long before their retirement time is up. They just wait until they can get their gratuity and they're off. And I met a lady who retired recently, and she said, "My dear, let me tell you something. I slept until 10 o'clock and I was so happy. That's the happiest I've been." And you listen to public servants tell you about what they're going through, their work environment, first of all. Some people have not had increment for a long while. Some people have not even gotten their appointment. Nowadays, I was told that the EADRs, the assessment, don't even work anymore because it's of no use. Because who does the interview for jobs? The ministers or the PAL reps or whoever. You know, there was the vacancies at the state prison, and each PAL rep was supposed to identify people, identify work officers, and the vetting of these people don't go through any process. You know, so you have public officers who have been going through the process, who have studied, who have paid money to do their degree programs. They come back to Dominica or they do it online, and yet they can't even get. Yet some of them cannot even pay back the loan because the salary they get is so meager. And you have some public officers. Somebody told me at welfare they have a bad problem at the welfare division. Some of the welfare officers go home sick, and how do you work in such an environment? How do you not stand for your own health, for your own wealth? We cannot continue bleeding this country by leaving and migrating to other countries. Yeah. Many public officers, especially nurses, we've had a number of nurses leave this land and they're gone. Why? Because the work environment is poor, the salary is terrible, and you cannot make ends meet. You cannot pay a loan. You cannot. Some people have retired, and after they've retired, they have still mortgage of $100,000 and something $1,000. So these people, after they stay 40 years in a service, they have to rush into full-time employment after they retire from the service to get little pittance in order to pay their mortgages. If this is your reality, if you have not gotten salary increase for how long? I think for every public officer, the 31st is for you. The place to be is on the arch on the 31st. We start at 3 o'clock, from work at 4 o'clock, join us on the arch. Stand up, and we want you to stand up for yourself. Nobody can do anything to you. Don't bother with what people tell you about what they're going to do. Nobody can do anything. If you decide you want to stand, and you want to stand for what is right, and you want to stand for your own justice and equality, why should you be paying $64,000 every month for a house, for one man, and you can barely enter a home? You have people who live in the apartment, and we saw the state of the apartments that the people live. Sure, the people are even, none of them even want to stand up and talk about the state of the apartment. If that is your reality, you do not have your papers or your, what do you call it?
Sure, the titles.
Your titles. The place is for you, 31st is for you. The NEP people, the 31st is for you as well. Because you've been struggling for what? $500, $800 a month. You cannot make it. You cannot make ends meet. There's no way you can budget it for it to work for you. You cannot go to any of the areas to get assistance. You cannot go and get a loan in the bank. You cannot get a loan in the bank because you do not have the collateral. You do not have what it takes to take a loan. For how long is it going to happen? Many of you who clean the streets, I'm not saying that is not something it's beautiful to clean, but some of you have skills. Some of you there are some things that you would love to
Well
do.
qualified.
Very well qualified. Why is it that you had a situation where some CX children wrote exams and they're in the classroom and they came without their timetable, without anything. And it's like, is it don't care? Look, at the end of the day, I just want my phone so I can call my boyfriend.
Yeah.
And they can't do anything. I'm not graduating anyway. And this is what you're talking about. This is a generation that you're talking about.
Destroyed.
This is the kind of generation. And this is your reality. The 31st of May is for you at 3:00. We want you to turn out in massive numbers in the city. Do not shy away from it. So police officers, we know some of you do your work, and we want you to do your work as God says you should do your work. Protect us. Be on those of you who are at home and you are maybe off and whatever. Find yourself there because it's for you as well. We're fighting. We're fighting for the teachers, right? Who have been going through days and years without an appointment. We're fighting for the doctors as well and the nurses at the hospital. When you leave the hospital late at night, there's nowhere you can get a vehicle to take you home when you have GAs all over the globe going up and down. Yet you are staying on the side of the road waiting for a ride to take you home at whatever time in the evening. No, the facilities at the hospital. When you pay, I remember at the last some budget cycles ago, $160,000 was spent to open the wing of a hospital. Yet you have the facilities, the equipment and the supplies, the products you need. You cannot get it, but you pay $160,000 to open a wing of a hospital.
The wing is still fractured.
So this is the situation that we're in, and we're asking Dominicans, public officers. My bane is public officers. I mean, I know the sacrifices that you make. I know the suffering that you are under. We want you to turn out and be counted among the people who are there on the 31st of May.
Mr. Luge.
Yes, I want to make a special appeal. All the parents listening tonight, I'm going to ask you to call your children whose ages are 18 to 38. Okay, so tell them, just give me 5 minutes. I want to talk to the children of Dominica, the youth of Dominica, ages 18 to 38. Just give me 5 minutes. I know younger people don't really like to listen to the radio so much, but just give Danny Luge 5 minutes. You have realized, right, for the past 20 years, and those of you 18 years, at least when you became conscious of politics in Dominica, that life is tough. The jobs available to you now is an NEP job which pays in the range of $1,000 or max $1,500. 600 to 800. With that kind of money, you ain't going anywhere fast. Now, what is really happening is 2 sets of jobs you have available to young people now, the ages that I just say, 18 to 38. It's either you're an NEP worker or you work in security, private security. These 2 jobs, you don't have a future. What you must realize, even if Social Security is taken off from that and paid to you, when you come to retirement age, which is not very far from now, you'll find out that if you have already spent, those of you 48 years, 20 years under a government where you have an income of $1,000 or less, trust me, what you're going to get in your retirement is nothing. Whereas you heard Mr. Linton speak about St. Kitts, Antigua, St. Lucia, salaries are 3 times what we get paid in Dominica. 3 times. So I'm appealing to young people, right? Not because it is all you know, which is the Labour Party. That's how it is. In the past, young people earned salaries in their communities much more than that from farming, because you had a vibrant trade of goods to the region and to the UK. So we are telling you, do not think because that's all you know, that is all that exists. In other Caribbean islands, they do much better. So we are telling you, on the 31st, if you figure you've had enough, you cannot make ends meet. It's just from hand to mouth. The 31st of May, your place is Rosa under the arch. And together, we want to send a message and we'll stick to it as long as it takes. But for our children's sake, that we got to stand this time around.
The logic of participation in the events on May 31st in Roseau have everything to do with the fact that those who are enjoying the oppression of the people of Dominica, those who are enjoying the abuse of the resource of the people of Dominica and are benefiting from it, are not the ones who are going to stop doing that so that other people can benefit. It is the people who are on the receiving end of that abusive treatment that must stand up and say enough is enough and ensure that the change is going forward. I remember sitting in the studio, many moons ago with the former Prime Minister of St. Vincent the Grenadines, and the audio clip from Roosevelt Skerritt saying, "It is none of your damn business where Labour Party get this money, go to hell, go to hell, go to hell." James Mitchell listened to that and he said, well, it doesn't reflect so much on the Prime Minister, It reflects more on the people who continue to vote him regardless of that disrespect. And we have had many examples of this from this guy through the years. He has stood up in front of the people of Dominica and he has said to them, listen, I have insurance. I can afford to send my children overseas. If anything happens to them, what about you? And the people in the crowd psychology frenzy are there applauding while he's saying to them, I am your employee. I can afford to send my children overseas for medical attention because I have a medical insurance, but you who employ me have none. And people believe that that is okay. It is not okay. And if you believe that that is not okay tonight, then the 31st of May is the place for you to be with the rest of your brothers and sisters from Dominica, standing up against what is wrong for the governance of Dominica. This man has told the people of Dominica that the apartments that have been built with passport money around the country belong to him. And so tell them, don't come on Skerritt step before you wet them with hot water. He has told the people of Dominica that their blood will be shed if they vote the United Workers' Party into government. He has said to the people of Dominica, he doesn't know anybody in Dominica who is able to afford everything for their children. And he has listened to his minister tell Dominicans that Dominica has been last in everything. Dominica has been behind in too many things for too long. 20 years under the watch of this government. And so if you are a farmer or you are the child of a farmer and you appreciate what has happened to the farming community in Dominica, what has happened to agriculture, what has happened to all the productive lands of Dominica and the work of farmers around Dominica that sent their children to school, that built their livelihoods, that took care of their families from their farming income that has basically disappeared in Dominica right now. The 31st is a day for you. If you were promised, as you were, by this government, that there was going to be this grand, successful diversification into tourism, and you were expecting a high-paying job as a young person from it, but you're still unemployed, the 31st of May, the place for you. You see what has happened to manufacturing, even bottled water-based products, Juicy, Coke, 7-Up, Sprite. We lost production of that to other Caribbean countries with less water than us, which means they are now employing the people to do that. We cannot, but we have better water than everybody else. If you, as Francisca says, you're a public officer, look at the record of your wage increases, your salary increases over the last 10 years. That alone is enough for you to stand with your brothers and sisters on the 31st of May. You look at your conditions of service. You look at the number of you who have no appointment after so many years in service of your state, of your country. You look at the state of health care in Dominica. And when it is put to the prime minister who is responsible, he tells you that the people are going and they're stealing toilet paper at the China Friendship Hospital. And that is the explanation for the quality of healthcare services. He goes and he tells the people living in the apartments where they are being normalized into enduring that stench of sewage every day from a faulty sewage system, that it is not his fault. It is not the developer's fault. It is the fault of the people who cannot flush their toilets. What manner of person is that? And this is a man, you know. This is a man. This state, he forces the state to pay $64,000 a month for him to live in a mansion owned by his friend and fellow passport money controller, Anthony Hayden. The state pays for him to live there and for the other expenses and so on, the rent and other expenses, $64,000 a month. The state also pays for a fleet of vehicles and security officers that secure his family. So he has his security, his wife has her security, his children have their security, and the vehicle that waits for them with the air condition on while they're at school and so on. So when they come in, they can be nice and
6
cool.
hours, 6 to 7 hours.
He has all that available to him. And it is, and the vehicles, expensive vehicles. He must have, the vehicles in his fleet must be easily over $500,000.
Oh no, over $1 million. All together?
Together.
All of them is over $1 million.
About $1 million.
Yeah.
Okay. Plus, that's the vehicles, plus the residence and all the other things, all the other perks of the job. And yet, this same man felt it was necessary for him to accept a so-called gift of an SUV valued at $194,000. He claims it was a gift. He didn't pay for it. Somebody gave it to him. The Integrity in Public Office Commission, because the gift was non-trivial and could not have been given for some altruistic reason, because somebody somewhere in the world is going around shopping looking for people who need gifts of $194,000 to just give it to them. I mean, that gift should be the property of the state if people were doing their work as the Integrity Commission. But this individual who has so much from the state still feels he must take some more. While the Grotto Home for the Homeless, they're boasting that they're giving them a subvention of $65,000 a whole year. I mean, what manner of people are these? And we are saddled with this burden of the monthly rental and the expenses for the house that are so exorbitant because the Prime Minister himself overturned decisions of his cabinet to fix the residence of the Prime Minister at Mount Bruce and bring it up to standard. He refused to do that so that he could live in his friend's house at the expense of the state. In the meantime, he's building another mansion on 95,000 square feet of land, a huge mansion for him to live next door to the one of his friend that he's now renting. And at the same time, we have a house of dark secrets rising in the middle of the city, another $40 million structure. Nobody sees, nobody knows. When he's asked about it, he runs. When he's not asked about it, he runs away from the question, confirming the guilty conscience that needs no accuser. What are we dealing with in Dominica that we will not feel comfortable assembling together to say enough on the 31st of May? That's where we're heading to, because all that has gone on in the past 2 decades require a response from the people that this has not been about them. If you're happy and you're rolling in money and everything is going good for you, the 31st is not for you. The 31st is for you to put your foot up while other people in Dominica are looking about their business and to say, thank the Lord for counting your blessings. But if that's not your reality, if your circumstances have actually become worse, those of your family have become worse, whether you are a farmer, you're a public officer, you are somewhere, you're a trucker, the truckers. Good evening, truckers. What's going on?
I want to know about
All you
Dominica
good?
Strong.
Bus drivers, all you
Where
good?
Dominica Strong went to.
Yeah.
Dominica Strong took a rebate of withholding taxes of $9.1 million some years ago. Do you know the amount of revenue you have to generate for you to pay $9.1 million in withholding tax into the treasury? The withholding tax is 25%, you know. So you have to generate close to $40 million for you to be paying $9 million. And then the government says, you know what? Hold on, take it back. We don't want it. But we're going to charge you more for water. We're going to make sure your electricity bill goes up because we want more tax. And the IMF tells us we have to stop being so dependent on all this passport revenue. Even though the IMF is not interested in counting it properly or counting for all the billions that are overseas, they're still telling you, well, you can't rely on these revenues. You must depend more on your taxes and make life more miserable for people who are already under stress. To the 1st of May, 2023. That's when we say no to all of these things that are going on against us.
Okay, you're listening to the Workers' Voice. We're discussing the 31st of May. That will be our electoral reform rally on the riverbank in Roseau. Join us there. Take your pipwe, take your SUVs, your dump trucks, your Bedford trucks, your pickup, your buses. We are going to Roseau, your donkeys, your horses. We are going to Roseau, your bicycles, your bikes, all the bikers call them, the scooters.
Scooters.
Yeah, scooters come down to Roseau because we want everybody in Roseau on the 31st of May 2023, sorry. In studios with me is Mr. Danny Luge, Mrs. Francisca Joseph, and Mr. Lennox Linton. Don't forget to join us for sales of our ticket raffles tomorrow for the tickets for the Mazda Demio. Only $5. You also can win a rice cooker and a flat screen TV. We're going to open the lines. I see the lines going already. 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097, 305-432-9624, 305-432-9624. Overseas court number. I'm sorry. You can also WhatsApp us as well on 767-265-4334. 767-235-4334. Let me just read a quick WhatsApp message before I take the phone calls. Mr. Linton made a point a while ago there about people who are not appointed. And I'm getting that first time in the history of Dominica, we have fire officers temporary in the service. And sometimes they make 5, 6, 7 years before they're appointed. Shame on this government. Fire officers. And they are temporary up to 8 years in the service. Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Workers' Voice.
Good evening, Madam Vice President and gentlemen.
Yes.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
I see you are well protected tonight.
Oh yes, fully protected. Not a wind that passing.
Amen to that.
You're
Right,
paying,
outside.
you're paying the security?
Huh?
You're paying the security?
No, I mean, pro bono.
Hey, Papa, pro bono.
Big Tim, man. Big Tim on us.
Yes,
As long as I have life, health, and strength, but I will be there. So, gentlemen, I'm listening. Very good program. Madam Vice President,
Yes, ma'am.
but we should make them make a big party for us this month, last month, 21st for a month.
I know.
Amen. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you very much. Good evening. Welcome to the Workers' Voice.
Hello, good night.
Good night,
Good
sir.
night.
Now I hear Mr. Linton talk about 3 o'clock on the Wednesday, that is the 31st.
Yes, sir.
That we will send a signal to the government to make them know what's taking place. But I find it don't have enough time. I mean, if it was 72 hours, that is 3 days. That means to say we would have enough time to camp on the road to remain until the Saturday, and then the government will get the signal. But starting at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, where can we go? We're supposed to go to the electoral office and make them know that we want election reform. We
So-
need 72 hours on the road.
So we're having a rally on the 31st. Rallies on the 31st. We'll take it from thereafter, but we're having an electoral reform rally on the 31st. We want everybody to be there. We want to send a very loud message. As we said, we want everybody to come there and listen, get the information, go back, digest it and everything. We will take it from that. We'll take the decision from there. But making the decisions on the radio is not our forte tonight. We're focusing on discussing and encouraging people to be there on the 31st. And that is very important to us. All right? Thank you very much. Yes, the discussion continues in terms of, let me just take some more calls. Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Workers' Voice.
Good evening to all my people, my PM, my family, my
Good
friend,
evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, good evening,
evening.
family.
how you all are doing?
We're doing
We
fine.
good? We good?
I didn't hear the voice of my PM, no?
Yes, sir. We good. We good.
Oh, okay. Myself, I'm on the 31st. Once I have health and strength, I'll be there. And please remember, we have funeral tomorrow afternoon, eh?
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
One thing, people from Paradise Valley are looking for each other.
Paradise.
Take care.
Take care.
All right. Good evening and welcome to the Workers' Voice. Fear no more.
Hello. Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Good evening to all in the studio.
Good evening.
But the person who called before me was ahead of before me
Mm.
with what I have to say.
Mm.
I agree with the person. How can you have a kind of a meeting like this starting at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? The day is over. Where are the unions if you are in the office? The unions should be there. U.W.P.
Hello, we're not stopping anybody to join us. Everybody can join us. The activity starts at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. And who want to join us? That nobody's we're not keeping anybody away. Everybody, as we were saying, the unions, public officers, nurses, doctors, lawyers, unemployed, ghetto youths, everybody join us.
Yes, but what I am saying, I could hardly hear what you were telling me. But what I am saying, officers are allowed 1 day away from work on sick leave. You call in the morning, you say you are sick, and then you come at 10 o'clock for that meeting. By 3 o'clock, everything finished. 3 o'clock is evening, time to go home.
Thank you very much. I don't know. We have to try to clear that because I see
Okay.
some.
No,
yeah.
just a suggestion about the timing of the meeting.
Yeah.
The lady obviously believes it would be better in the morning.
Yeah.
Our decision after consultation and taking some views around has been better off in the afternoon.
Mm.
So we proceed on that basis. It could be either morning or afternoon. And I appreciate the observation that the caller is making, but the decision has been we're going to go in the afternoon, and it is an event organized by a political party, which is part of what we do, part of our role and responsibility for the well-being and progress of the country. But it is an event for everybody.
Yeah.
So whether you support the United Workers' Party or not, but you have a problem or an issue with how your country is running, and it is not working for you, 31st of May, 2023 is a time for you, 3 o'clock in the afternoon at the riverbank.
Hello. Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Workers' Voice.
Boss, big man like all you fellas, all he does not want to listen to little boys like me and the lady. You understand? Wrong timing. Everybody's supposed to be at least in Roseau at 10 o'clock in the morning so we can have time go by the government department and make them know we need election reform. You understand? What the hell is 3 o'clock in the afternoon?
Hold on.
At least you have to be respectful. You want to make your point, be allowed to make your point, but you want to get...
The caller is obviously upset and he's emotional about what he would like to see happen. And that's one of the things we have to come to understand and appreciate. It is not that people are not listening to you. Of course, we listened. And in the discussion that led to an agreement on 3 o'clock in the afternoon, there were suggestions about the morning, right? And there were something that were considered. And at the end of the day, the majority position among the decision makers was, let's hold it in the afternoon. It's not a reason to be abusive of anybody. It's just a decision that was made about a time of day that would be more suitable. And this should not be for you, caller, an excuse to say that you're not being listened to, because that's not the case at all.
I have an option, Mr. Leader. I have an option. That same, it's a Wednesday, right? The Wednesday workers will be in Roseau. So those who figure they can make it for the morning will be accommodated by the Wednesday workers. I'll join you there. So we have no controversy now.
And this is a culmination of a number of meetings that we've had in the various constituencies. We've had town hall meetings where we speak to the whole issue of electoral reform. And this is not a protest action per se. It is a national rally or assembly. A national assembly, a national meeting, to meet with our people, with everybody of like mind and everybody who's been suffering in this country.
And to demonstrate in numbers
exactly that
dissatisfaction with what is going on.
The mere fact that you turn out, it shows that you're dissatisfied with what is going on. We also want to hear your voices on that day through what you think, what it is, because we cannot work without the Dominican public. We cannot. So we are calling people to come together at this juncture. You're going to listen to some issues. There are new issues that we used to speak to, read the electoral reform. I'm sure there are some things that people still need to know. Read the whole issue or process of electoral reform. Where are we now? And what we need to do. So from the 31st, we will decide what next happens.
Yeah, and that is the first real assembly we have had since COVID,
Yes.
We had our
party.
We're talking about party activity. We're talking about national gathering. That is one of the biggest activity we're going to have since COVID. And people have to begin to understand that we have to. Nobody's as Mr. Linton said and Danny, we all made that point. We listen to everybody. But you have to understand that majority carries in terms of that. Let us go with the meeting on May 31st, Wednesday afternoon from 3 p.m. the Arch, and we'll take it from there. There's phone calls coming in. Let me just take a few more calls. Somebody called me telling me they're trying to call in. Good evening and welcome to the Workers' Voice. Hello, good evening.
Hello.
Yes, good evening.
Okay, I'm addressing this to you, all of you in the studio. This is a national rally. Whether you are Freedomites, U.W.P, NGMites, if there are any NGMites. Where is NJAM? Where are the unions? Bring everybody together. It's a national thing. It's not one party. It should not be one party thing. It's sure a party organizing it, but involve all those people. Yeah. All those people, right to DAIC, whether they want it or not, right to them, right to Employers Federation, right to Taxi Association, right to all of them. And bring people out in the morning at 10 o'clock, not in the afternoon at 3 o'clock. Where can you go in the afternoon at 3? When you start your meeting, you can go anywhere at 4 or 5 o'clock. Commission is closed, commission office is closed. Let people rally and walk up to the commission. Right? You have to be effective in whatever you're doing, and you take it from there for next time. It's national, it's not any political, whatever.
Okay, you've made your point. I just said earlier on, look, I open up an option to you. Those who can make it 10 o'clock, the Wednesday workers can join me, Afimate, that same Wednesday. So as we said, we are a democratic party. We listen to all views. We cannot ram down a point of view. You heard Mr. Linton say that it was discussed across the table, and that's the idea that came up. But we'll still accommodate those of you who can make it for 10 o'clock. I will be in town so that we can walk the streets of Roseau from 10 in the morning, and in the afternoon we'll be under the arch.
But I get the impression from her and the gentleman that we having an activity to walk around Roseau.
No.
We are not having. We're having a rally on the riverbank from 3 p.m. and discussion will take it from there. And people will be knocking flesh.
Yeah.
You know, and
Pressing
discussing
flesh,
and pressing fresh and discussing and hearing the different. We have, as a party, we have contacted all the other organizations that were willing to come on board.
There's another sector I would like to include and appeal to, the Bayfront vendors. For 20 years, you have been promised a facility, a home. You've been disrespected. Now that the tourist season is over, they're asking you to vacate the Bayfront, and we still have visitors in Dominica.
They're homeless.
May 31st is for you also. We have said as a party that we will give you a home, and we won't do like this party who for 23 years, they have been promising a Bayfront, an arcade, vendors arcade, and nothing. So all Bayfront vendors, we're looking out for you. May 31st, under the arch.
Danny, next time somebody call us, everybody call us from now on, they have to tell us if they'll be on the riverbank. When you call us, let us know you'll be on the riverbank. And because we are hearing the discussion about people being afraid. And when United Workers Party started out in 1988, they started with a slogan that took them into in government in 1995. Fear no more. And I think that slogan is true in Salisbury. We fear nobody. We respect everybody, but we fear no one. Fear no more. Salisbury, how are you doing? Good evening. Welcome to the Workers' Voice.
Hello, good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, sir.
Gentlemen, this is the boots on the ground.
You're hearing you loud and clear.
I have been calling on my people for the longest while that the only way we could get any answers from this government, any response from this government in relation to suiting the people is for us to put our boots on the ground. Gentlemen, I've been hearing some people confused about the time and have issues about the time that the meeting is going to be held. But it is a year plus that we have been going out every Wednesday, and our mission starts at 10 o'clock in order to demonstrate to the people of Dominica that we have a right to walk, to talk, to congregate, and to discuss matters that affect us. So we are saying that there should not be a problem on that particular Wednesday if there's a meeting at 3 o'clock. On that Wednesday says that the people that would like to be a part of this standing ovation, these people that would like to register themselves as being ready to stand up for electoral reform, on that Wednesday, find yourself in Roseau. It can be 6 o'clock in the morning, because at 10 o'clock in the morning, we'll be walking the streets of Roseau freely. And when we walk the streets of Roseau, we will be demonstrating to the world that the people of Dominica cannot take it any longer. We want electoral reform. Whatever the evening turn up to be, the people will do what is necessary. But let us try to understand that on that particular Wednesday, everybody that have been seeing us walking, they have charged more than 10 of us. We want the matters to call because they are going against our rights. They are violating our rights, our civil rights. And we would like to demonstrate to the people that the children of the future have the right to walk, to talk, to congregate, as long as they're not causing any problem, any harm to personal properties. So we want to go out on Wednesday put our boots on the ground. If you don't have boots, put a slippers. Let's start Wednesday morning at 10, and we will see how long again we're going to stand up. Because it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to stand up just on that Wednesday. We might be standing up for a number of days, but let us start it at the 10 o'clock. So all of you that have a problem with the 3 o'clock, no problem in that, brother. Let's start it in the morning, and we will walk the streets as usual. It is our democratic right. I stand with my boots on the ground. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much for your contribution, caller. I see some calls coming. Let's see if I can take this overseas call. Good evening. Welcome to the Workers' Voice.
Good night to all the people in the studio.
Good night. Good night.
Good night to your listeners.
How are you?
Home and abroad.
How are you doing?
That background sounds like somewhere in New Jersey, in the United States of America. The background. How are you doing?
I just want to make a comment. I want to tell Dominicans, when Charles Fabre had the 47 days bogus strike, he didn't go on the radio and say what he was going to do. He called out the people, and they came out in massive numbers at the parish hall. And the night of the meeting, that's when they took the decision. So on the 31st, Dominicans need to go out in massive numbers to the meeting. And if they have any decision to take or anything to do, they will take it on the night of the meeting. Good night and bye-bye.
Thank you very much for
Thank
your
you. Thank you very
contribution. Yes, you're listening to the Workers' Voice. Here in studios with me is Mr. Daniel Luge, Mrs. Francisca Joseph, and also Mr. Lennox Linton. We're discussing the May 31st activity coming up, May 31st, 2023, United Workers' Party Reform Rally, a rally that we want everybody to come and join in and be part of it. You've been affected in one way or the other. Your democratic right is being trampled upon. I think the foundation of a democratic process or democracy is your voting right, your right to vote, free and fair elections. Since no one is disenfranchised, that means you have a process that is working. But since one person is disenfranchised, the process is not working in the best interest of the people. And I just want to encourage each and every one of you, from Scott's Head to Capuchin, from Dailies to Salisbury, join us, Roseau Central, on the 31st of May 2023, where we'll be dealing with that electoral reform issue once and for all going forward, because we have said by the first quarter of 2024, it should be
Hector,
elections.
We want people to talk to your neighbor. You know, don't just wait on because it affects every one of us. And when I'm telling you, Dominica is ours. Dominica belongs to us. It is our homeland. We're not living it. We are no immigrants. We belong in this land. So we want you to motivate each other. Talk to each other. Talk to your neighbor. Talk to your friend. You are a public officer. Talk to another public officer. You are a farmer. Talk to another farmer. You're a bus driver. Talk to the other bus drivers. You're a trucker. Talk to the other truckers. And this is how the movement begins. It doesn't rely on one set of people to do everything. It's a movement, and one motivate the other to turn out on the 31st. So we don't just let it fall. Yes, we are organizing the activity, but we are encompassing everybody. We're involving everybody in this program. If we talk about public officer, obviously we talk about the unions. We talk about the farmers, everybody who is involved in this country, who've been suffering, who has gone through the process of, look, my phone bill, my water bill, look, now we have load shedding with electricity. Some people do not have electricity. Now we spend how many millions of dollars on a geothermal plant, and according to well, I don't want to say what my boy said, but not even a label we can get to light. You know, so we have been suffering in this country. Millions of money in passport sales, millions of dollars in passport sales, where every household in Dominica could at least get $1 million clean, just like that. And the millions and millions of dollars in passport has done nothing for this country. We are still in dire straits, we are still in problems, and we are asking you to turn out in large numbers. Show your support. Stand for something. This is what happens in every country in the world. People stand. People stand when they are being affected. People stand if the system is not good. People stand when the government gets 200% increase in salaries and your public officer gets nothing much. They stand. And you have to come out and speak about those things. And the mere fact that you stand is enough to turn out and be counted and say, you know what? Yes, I am part of the movement. Yes, I'm going to stand. Yes, enough is enough for me. Yes, I want better for my children. Yes, I want better for myself. I want to live a better life in this land that I do not want to live and go anywhere else.
Someone just WhatsApp me and ask me, what after the big crowd, after everybody come to Roseau, where we take it from there? And
well, you know,
that is
we don't need to run ahead of ourselves.
Right.
You know.
Thank you very much.
The important thing right now is for Dominicans to show that they are dissatisfied with what has been happening with their lives under this administration for 2 decades. There has not been really a massive show of dissent or dissatisfaction with how the Roosevelt-Skerrit administration has been abusive of the rights of people, their right to live, to work, to live, to enjoy, and to build their livelihoods in Dominica. The government has been totally and absolutely abusive of that. It has simply used its time in government to look for the interests of its individual members and to hand out just what they feel is enough to keep certain people happy and to make them dependent. Take away their means of livelihood and make them dependent on coming to the PAL rep to give them this and to give them that. We are saying that that is not a way to live. And if you value your independence, if you value the privilege of earning your own money, spending your own money, building your own life, caring for your family, and extending yourselves and your influence in the world community, if you value those things, then the way the country has been headed for the last 20 years under the leadership of the Dominica Labour Party is not going to get you there. And part of the problem, because everybody else is changing, they change government this year, they change again next year or the next 10 years, we're the only country in the OECS, in the Caribbean, we should say, where there's been no change of government for 20 years. Since 2000, there's been no change of government. All right. Now, I want to make a few observations and remarks about electoral reform and where we are, because much has been said in recent times about the Dennis Byron report, and the Prime Minister has been asked questions about it at press conferences, and the answers are all over the place, and the blame game continues. Let us remember that Sir Dennis Byron wrote to the Prime Minister, and he wrote to the leader of the opposition, and he wrote to the leader of the United Workers' Party at the time. You got a letter from Sir Dennis Byron, right?
Yes.
6th of November, 2022, advising that he had reached consensus with the Electoral Commission on proposals to amend the Registration of Electors Act, and that he would therefore present phase 1 of his report during the month of November 2022. And at that time, he advised on moving ahead with the electoral reform recommendations as follows. Number 1, presentation of phase 1 report during the month of November 2022. Number 2, Parliament to table the registration of electors legislation in December of 2022 with the plan to enact it in January of 2023 so that the register of electors could be compiled in accordance with the recommendations during that calendar year. 3, the presentation of phase 2 of the report, which is proposals to amend the House of Assembly Elections Act after the consultation process, similar to that undertaken for phase 1 in February and March of 2023. And 4, Parliament to table and enact phase 2 legislation in March, April 2023. Notice we have come to May, and all we have seen so far
is the presentation of a draft of the Phase 1 report, which was done on the 30th of November 2022. The United Workers' Party, the parliamentary opposition at the time, was involved in the stakeholder consultations of the electoral reform exercise that commenced in September of 2020, 2 years and 9 months ago. We met with Sir Dennis Byron at his request on the 20th of November 2022 to discuss the draft Phase 1 report, and at that meeting we expressed our reservations and concerns in 2 key areas. Number 1, cleaning the voters' register through confirmation. We said then that the provision for the Electoral Commission to designate overseas enrollment centers in select locations for confirmation of voters living overseas on the voters' register is inherently discriminatory and opens up the process to corrupt manipulation. We said that the facilitation of eligible persons overseas to confirm their right to vote without having to incur the expense of travel to Dominica cannot be only for those with access to the few enrollment centers worldwide that will be set up at the discretion of the Commission. The proposed provision, therefore, only mitigates the cost of travel for certain overseas voters and effectively makes a mockery of ensuring that no eligible voter living overseas is disenfranchised. Registration of voters is done in person in Dominica. Voting is done in person in Dominica, and therefore confirmation on the voters' register must be done in person in Dominica. Number 2, disqualification of voters living overseas. The provision allowing disqualified voters who have not been ordinarily resident in Dominica for more than 5 years to be deemed not absent from Dominica and to remain on the voters' register if they visit Dominica for an aggregate of 90 days over 1,865 days in the 5-year period is, in our view, ill-advised. Registration to vote in Dominica is based on being ordinarily resident in a particular polling district in Dominica. Accordingly, disqualification should be based not on absence from Dominica, but on whether or not the person is no longer ordinarily resident in Dominica. And in this regard, the reform needed is a clear definition in the legislation governing the electoral process of what it means to be no longer ordinarily resident in Dominica and therefore no longer eligible to be on the voters' register after 5 years. We believe this compromise that elevates absence from Dominica over non-residence in Dominica as the basis for disqualification facilitates continued corrupt ruling party manipulation of the overseas vote. It is not modernization based on international best practice. It is not electoral reform. And as the anxiety rises across the nation for the conclusion of the electoral reform exercise, intended to make our electoral process fit for the purpose of free and fair elections, we note the failure to meet the timeline for implementation of the reform recommendations through amendments of the election laws set out by Sir Dennis Byron in November of last year. The status of the draft Phase 1 report is unknown at this time, and there is no indication when the Phase 2 report will be presented. Our expectations for amendments to the House of Assembly Elections Act were presented and discussed with Sir Dennis Byron during the stakeholder consultations. We spoke then of 1, access to media, and proposed provisions for access to all media for all political parties. We recommended prohibition of all media houses, print, radio, TV, digital, electronic, from denying any political party or candidate paid time and or space for the broadcast or publication of the messages. We took the position that media houses must be legally obligated to ensure that political parties and any independent candidates participating in elections have unrestricted access to media services during the campaign period, and that penalties must be prescribed for failure to comply with the rules. We cautioned against granting discretionary authority to the Electoral Commission to pre-approve broadcasts or publications of opposition parties or candidates, that such provisions, because such provisions will not guarantee access, what they will do is present justifications in law for operatives of institutions of state weaponized against the opposition to intensify their unjust, oppressive behavior in the defense of a tainted electoral process. We spoke in the consultations about campaign finance reform, which we expect is one of the elements that will be included in the revision of the House of Assembly Elections Act. And we recommended provisions for an election campaign period that begins at least 12 months before the election date, a limit on election campaign expenditure by political parties at $30 per registered voter, and declarations of campaign contributions and election campaign spending, also prohibition of election campaign funding from questionable sources. We addressed the issue of bribery and treating as well. And on the basis that allowing the payment of air and sea transportation for voters living overseas and the payment of free entertainment for voters represents major deformities in the electoral process that have been facilitating the theft of elections. We noted that elections in Dominica have increasingly featured the corrupt practices of bribing and treating local and overseas voters, eligible and ineligible, to cast ballots for the Dominica Labour Party. The existing law has been manipulated to allow valuable consideration of huge sums to be spent on airline and ferry tickets and free entertainment to corruptly influence votes. And so we recommended that the amendment to the legislation must at the very least reflect the guidance in Halsbury's Laws of England, 4th edition, volume 15, paragraph 770, page 421, quote, the payment or promise of payment to a voter of his traveling expenses on the condition expressed or implied that he would vote for a particular candidate is bribery. We addressed as well the question of abuse of incumbency. And very simply, we were recommending provisions to strictly prohibit using resources of the state and projects resulting from the expenditure of public funds as campaign tools to corruptly, improperly, and unduly influence voters and thereby gain political advantage. And another thing that occupied our attention at the point of those consultations, stakeholder consultations, when we sat with the consultant in the early days, was election petitions, which are part of the electoral process. And we recommended provisions to ensure that challenges to election results filed within 21 days of the election, as required by law, are concluded within 90 days of filing, consistent with the counsel from leaders of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court through the years that it is important for the people to know as soon as possible after an election who their validly elected representatives are. And so we trust that these proposals will be included in the reform recommendations to amend our election laws in order to align our electoral process with the requirements of free and fair elections with integrity as the backbone of democratic governance in the Commonwealth of Dominica. It's another reason for which we stand on the 31st of May, 2023, because no country should ever lose the right to elect a government of the people, by the people, for the people, with the votes of conscience of the people. Anytime that that right is taken away from the people, and anytime that right rests with an individual or group of individuals who decide for the people who their government should be, we no longer have a democracy or free society. What we have is a dictatorship and a tyranny of people who can do what they want with us because they cannot be changed, they cannot be recalled. And that is not acceptable. If, like me, you find that to be totally and absolutely unacceptable, then you will be with us in Roseau at the riverbank on the 31st of May, 2023.
Yes. Good evening once again. You're listening to the Workers' Voices, 14 minutes to 10 o'clock.
Already?
Yep, already. Just want to remind you that you listen to the Workers' Voice. In studios with me is Mr. Daniel Luge, Mrs. Francisco Joseph, and Mr. Lennox Linton. We're discussing the issue or activity on May 31st, 2023, electoral reform rally on the riverbank in downtown Roseau from 3 p.m. And we're calling everybody to join us, everybody, irrespective of what party you support, what church you go to, what village you come from. Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Workers' Voice.
Thank you, praises, thanks, blessings, and glory to all of humanity. Gentlemen, blessings to you and your family.
Blessings.
Blessings, blessings.
Somebody called me, then I so long on the phone, then I could not tell them I'm listening to my program because, and I hearing, but I was not listening, and I'm vexed. Can anybody cool me down? Gentlemen, thanks for the effort. Please do not be discouraged.
Sorry.
Are you hearing me loud and clear?
Yeah,
Yeah,
listen. Blessings come down. Okay? Calm down, bro. Calm down.
Yeah, I could not abbreviate my call, so I just stayed on the phone as long as the person wanted. But thanks a lot, gentlemen, for the effort through the years. Me myself, most of the times when you hear me and my big mouth, I'm just trying to cajole or motivate or critique, not criticizing. But I really want more to happen in a drastic way. But that is just me, unmannerly, unruly, fella that don't, not smooth around I'm not smooth, rough around the edges. So, but thanks. I pray that everybody can just, make the sacrifice. I hope the motivation, the mobilization, and everything is there. I will be going downtown to see if I can give a little donation tomorrow, God willing. No intention of going down, but I spoke to Bonnie. And, I will try my very best to see what I can contribute in a very little way. Not too much. I can't say too much. But thanks. I did not get the full trend of the discussion. I listened to Sika. She go back now. Laplin, or she's still there.
Still we? I still there.
I missed the gist of the program, so I'm so sorry. Blessed night, everybody. Safe journey back home.
All right, thank you.
And thanks through the years. God bless you. Take care.
Blessed, my brother.
God bless.
Thank you for calling in. Let me just take one more call. Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Workers' Voice.
My partner from Calgary.
Yes, good evening, sir.
Boy, blessing upon good talk. My phone is for me, but I see you. But Mrs. Blessing is a master of talking. I love Blessing talking. And let me say good night to my friend Benjamin Lynn and Amphia Del Sol. And Duque in Bay Bridge. God bless their soul. God bless you and God bless everybody. God bless peace and love.
All right. Thank you very much, caller. Right, you got off already. Yes. Good evening on the overseas line. I tried to be a bit short, with almost winding down already. All right. Thank you very much. Good evening.
Yeah. Good evening, honorables.
Good evening,
men and women in the house.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I want to say I'm very happy. I'm very happy of the spirit I hear in the studio tonight. And I just want to tell the folks who keep asking these questions of Lennox and others about, specifics. You can't ask these brothers that right now, bro. It's just dangerous. It can be dangerous for them and liabilities and all kinds of things in Dominica. So just come on out and be there.
just get that crowd. The rest will speak for itself. I want to promise my support this week. We're going to start working on this diaspora and see if we can help with you guys in some buses and otherwise. And I'm happy for the stance that the United Workers' Party is taking and the movement forward. And tonight I call it a supporter of the United Workers' Party. I'm very proud of the work that you guys are working on right now. I just hope there's work on the ground and the work is not just on field. That's all I would like to ask of you guys.
All right, thank you very much
you.
for calling in and for your support. God bless.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Logan.
I wanted to make the observation following what Mr. Linton mentioned about the housing allowance of Prime Minister Skerritt. It's $64,000 a month, and the subvention to Grotto Home is $64,000 a year.
And they're still not getting it.
And they're still not getting it. People of Dominica, isn't that enough to get you out on the street? What sort of leader would take that money, appropriate that money onto himself? Right? Your housing allowance is greater than your salary. Something wrong with that picture. Can you imagine that? That you, Hector John, your salary is $3,000, but your mortgage is $64,000. Something wrong with that picture. And the people who sat down with Skerritt and approved that kind of monies for him to live in his mansion. And so we're talking about free mansions, while the people of Grotto Home salaries are not paid, people are going hungry, and it doesn't matter how many times they come on the radio. I think it's several months now that the workers of Grotto Home not paid. Lord have mercy.
Let me give you another example as why people should be on the street on the 31st. We were in Wesley. Let us give Wesley. Wesley, about when we had banana, when banana was king, about 9 to 11 cents of every dollar was going to Wesley in revenue. So you talk about 9 million, let's say about 4 million a year going to Wesley, 4 to 5 million going to Wesley in revenue. Right now, they have destroyed Wesley. The entire agriculture belt in Wesley was destroyed. They saved no plants from that area. For example, if they had a breadfruit tree, you could only find in Wesley. We no longer have it. But yet still they give some people of Wesley houses. No, before we get to the houses, Wesley people had to give the state the certificate of title. They have all the certificate of titles. They build them some houses in Mambury. So they have the houses. They only have keys to the houses. So these houses, no title. These houses are still government owned. We are going to the hurricane season right now. If any of these houses destroyed, we're going to rebuild it. And these owners, homeowners, so-called homeowners or key owners, going to be compensated. That is why you have to be out there. We have people that in the apartments around Dominica, they have no strata title. For example, the people from Pilit Savan who lost everything, they have to give up their homes and they will move to the apartment buildings in Bellevue Chopin. No strata titles, no certificate of titles for any of the homes, nothing. But they have been living there since 2018. So they cannot take a loan on the property because they have no collateral. And these people, that is why you have to be on the riverbank on the 31st of May 2023. The young men are ghetto youths who are leaving high school, and some of them have been with the NEP program since 2014. 9 years, and they cannot take a loan. They cannot empower themselves. When I started working at the age of 20, by the age of 24, I bought a piece of land. That is 4 years. And by the age of 40, when I started, I took a loan to build a house. You were mentioning about the young people from 18 to 48. There were young people who they couldn't vote when Labour got in the government in 2020. They were 17 and 23. They are 40 now. We're going to do a survey of young people what have they accomplished during that time? Nothing. That is why you have to be on the road, down on the riverbank on 41st. Our young professionals who went out there to study, come back home. And some of you working 10, 15 years and hardly get 500 increase on your salary. Some of you can't even open your own business because you cannot, the environment is not conducive for you to open business, your small business. That is why you have to be there on the 31st of May 2023. That is why you have to show up on the riverbank from 3 p.m. Mr. Loge, Mrs. Joseph, you were saying something. Something I want to also at least touch on, Mrs. Joseph, seeing that you're there on women. What about our single parents, the women with children who are out there struggling day in, day out to send the children to school? How can we get them to be out there?
And Hector, this is the most vulnerable set of people in the population. Vulnerable on all counts.
Yeah.
They are unemployed, single parents, taken advantage of. Yeah. If they ask for, I need to send my child to school, I need assistance to send my child to school, but you have to give something of yourself. Yeah, you have to give something of yourself to whoever decides to give you help from the state, not from their own pocket, really, from the state's resources. Yet you tell them, you beg for it, you go down on your knees for it, you do all sorts of things to get it, you pay somersault for it. And do these women have a choice? You need to send your child to school. It is the worst time to be vulnerable, that your child needs to eat. Your child, when they were given the Roseau, in the Roseau area, they were given school stuff. Lady came from Kalibishi. She pays $20 back and forth. She has a child with her, pays $10. That is $30 already. To get a pair of shoes worth $60, you come from Kalibishi. That is it for you, right? And this is the level. And people tell you that they were camping. They had to come very early in order to get it. And you have the little children standing up in line in the hot sun, waiting to try a pair of shoes that may or may not fit them. They are hungry. And I do not know how these people who say they are 40 people, well, 40 people who have taken the people for a ride, who on the day of election will bribe them and tell them that I will give you this and I will give you that if you vote for me. The mere fact that they vote for you, they come for a piece of galvanized, or they come for plywood. They cannot get the plywood just like that. You have to sleep with me. I have to sleep with you. I have to, whatever it is I need to do to you in order to get it. Mothers, single mothers, if this is your plight, and I know many of you, this is your plight. Now, not only single mothers who are not employed, you have young women who are employed, who some of their employers, some of their bosses use them day in and day out. And most of them, sometimes if they are not appointed. So for you to get your appointment, for you to get anywhere in life, this is what I need to do to you. And if that is your plight and you are fed up, and I know you're tired and you're fed up, and that is the end of the rope for you, we need to see you on the 31st on the Bayfront to stand and be counted. Because enough is enough. You cannot continue to live your life at the whims and fancies of somebody. You need to be able to be free to do whatever you wish to do. If you wish to get involved with somebody, you can do so, but not because you are forced to do so. I know many, many, many young women. Some they get caught up in it because they maybe don't see any way out. Some will stand up strong, but not everybody is built the same way. So you have a vulnerable young woman and who have been out there being abused by those who have the power, being abused by those who have the money, and not their money. That when that hurt sector is the money belongs to the state. And these monies, millions of dollars in passport sales, could have been used to develop the lives of our young people, young women, single parents, through no fault of theirs. Yet you see them being vulnerable. They will climb up the steps and will go to the offices of those ministers, whatever it is that you call them, and they use them before they can give them anything.
So they will get the stuff.
and sometimes they don't get anything.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to get a scholarship. I have to get whatever for the scholarship. You need a phone, you need this, and you need the other. So we are telling you, you know what, enough is enough. There's time is right where our young women, single parents, you need to stand up. There's a better life for you. You have something better waiting for you. And we are telling you, yes, as the United Workers' Party, we are organizing the activity, but the activity is for the entire country of Dominica. All of you who I come there who have been affected, public officers, I will always continue to call, because every time you meet public officers, they are crying out, because they are the ones, and they are the ones that the millions of dollars pass through their hands, you know. They are the ones who see those things going on, you know, and they cannot get by themselves, you know, and we are calling on you. Some of you have life sweet. The Solid 31st is not really for you. As Mr. Linton said, life is great. You are enjoying the spoils of the land. You are fat. It's good for you. But what about the rest of the Dominican? The majority of the Dominican public who cannot make, you go to the supermarket, you see the people in the supermarket, and they begin to cash. And then they have to put back some. And they tell the cashier, you know, check for me as you go, keep on checking, because I need to, because what I have in my purse is not sufficient. So you take some chicken, you take some flour, and you take some lentils. You need all three in order to do what you need to do, but you have to put back something because you do not have the money. And then you go there and you buy a packet of Kool-Aid, which is not healthy for your children. You buy 2 packets of Kool-Aid, you buy, and this is the situation. This should not be. We have now what? We have mangoes, we have all kinds of things happening. And what? The following on the side of the road, we have no agro-processing, nothing.
Time is running out on us. It's ready to pass, and we're going to wind up. This time, Mr. Linton.
Thanks, Hector. I got this message on my phone tonight about 9 o'clock. And it says, I hear why you want people to stand on May 31st. Now, tell us, why will Lennox be standing? After all, you've been through. Why are you still willing to stand with us? Why do you believe in this? We need to hear from you. And I close with that because, you know, I believe in Dominica. I've always believed in Dominica. And whatever I've tried to do that has added value to our journey as Dominica has never been about me leading anything or being prime minister or being anything. It has just been about me trying to do the little I feel I can do to make all of us better. My life has been a very simple life. It has been about doing things to make my mother proud of me. That's all I've ever wanted to do, just make my mother proud of me. I never wanted to be king or prime minister or president. I just wanted to make my mother proud of me. And that's who I am today. So when I stand for us coming together on the 31st, I stand because just yesterday or this week, I heard a black man like myself with my color of skin say to the people of Dominica who are under oppression, who have been treated as second-class citizens in their own country for the benefit of people from the outside. I heard a black man like me say that our people who complain about oppression, who complain about unfair treatment, are being racist to the Chinese. I have to stand in those circumstances because our lives matter. And everybody's life matters as much as my life matters. When I went to court on those numerous occasions, under persecution from a government that took thousands of dollars from my parliamentary salary because that was a way of putting me on the manners. it didn't matter to me because, like I've always said, yo pasa chwe mwe. And in the life that I have lived in Dominica, God has blessed me with many blessings. God has bestowed on me many blessings that I continue to count. I count them every day, and some of them I count them twice. So all I want is for young people living now to have something like or better than the kind of life I had in Dominica when they were young, when I was young. When I was young and growing up and building a life, things were happening for me in Dominica. I want them to happen. I want things to happen for young Dominicans as well. And so I will be in Roseau on the 31st of May. I will be there with my people who I encourage to join us from every nook and cranny in Dominica. And you may even want, if you're overseas, my diaspora brothers and partners and friends, you may even want to take a few days off and come down to be with us on the 31st. Because yes, this is your country too. And we know how much you're invested in it and how passionate you are about it and how much you want to see us different, doing things differently and better than what we're doing today. So the 31st of May. Hector John, tell the people at Katai tonight, you have to bring Katai to the 31st of May.
Yes, they'll come across on
well, you have to go
I'm always there. I just want to say, Mr. Linton,
so I want to thank you, Hector. Thanks, Danny. Thanks, Francisca. Thanks, people listening. It's been wonderful.
Yeah.
And you'll hear a lot from us in the week ahead.
I just want to say, as we close, the reason why I'm standing, because over 70 people from Salisbury are before the courts because we stood up for what we believe in. I am standing because the village of Salisbury got tear gas on 4 occasions because we stood up. On May 11, 2015, June 11, 2015, May 22nd, 2017, and December 5th, 2019, where we were tear gas by the RSS in our sleep. That is why I am standing. The people of Salisbury will be there in full force. We are moving, we are trying. I know the young people of Salisbury don't like to do this, so they like to cover their base. But we'll have enough people guarding Salisbury, but a lot of people from Salisbury will be in Roseau, standing with our brothers and sisters from around Dominica on that day.
Just one note.
Yeah.
In Roseau, we're going to have a warm-up for the 31st, and we'll announce that sometime during the week next week, that we will have a May 31st warm-up with a big meeting
Fringe event
in Roseau North before the 31st of May. So look out for that date. Stay tuned. We'll be announcing that.
May 31st. If you're overseas and you want to assist your brothers and sisters, no matter what constituency, contact our caretakers. If you want to support the party, call our office for 767-265-0928, 767-265-0928, and Miss Onika will be there. If you want to support any of the other groups in Dominica, Electoral Reform Committee, you have NJAM, you have CCM, Civic, Loftus, what they call Civic Vibes.
Civic Vibes.
Yeah, any one of them you want to support or give make a contribution to what the event, and you want them to move the Munseri, give them the support. If you want to even give support to the unions, that's your right. That's where you want to give the support. We just want everyone to be out there. The farmers, if you want to give a farmer in Kalibishi to pay for a bus for the farmers of Kalibishi, you can do that as well. We want everybody to be in Roseau. May 21st, 2023, the Riverbank from 3 p.m., the Electoral Reform Rally. You don't want to miss it. Thank you. God bless you. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thanks, Hector.
Yes,
thank you.
Let me just we were there speaking. I forgot of queuing up my music, but yeah, my mic is on. Yes, yeah. I just want people to know that we're just preparing to leave, and we're gonna ensure that you have. A lot of people always wait for the BBC World service after we leave the studio. So yeah, we go. Once again, thank you for joining us, and all the very best on the weekend.
Poor family. We are 8 of us, siblings. I'm the eldest daughter. And of course, an early age, I know how my parents really work so hard. And even though that all of us are helping our family, we are still poor. And during the time, you need to understand that our country it's under dictatorship, it's under martial law, and it's really